Magic the Gathering is slowly becoming Hearthstone, and they're reprinting the Power 9. Big asterisks on both of those statements, by the way. I gotta clickbait you somehow. It's really to do with Mystery Boosters 2. An announcement that I think is actually really cool, and I wanted to go over today. A product that had really good success over the past couple of years, 2019 and 2022, I believe. And it's meant to be a draft experience that's supposed to enhance your con experience. If you go to a bigger Magic event or a Magic con, then you have the chance to draft Mystery Boosters, where they have playtest cards or reprints of other cards, or just really funky shenanigans going on. It's kind of like Chaos Draft Plus, and I've heard people like Saffron Olive on the MTG Goldfish podcast call it like kind of the unsets done right. There's a couple of jokes on there, there's a couple of real cards, and it's kind of this limited experience, high value, and everything in between. So I think Mystery Boosters 2 is doing some insane stuff, and that's really why I wanted to highlight it and talk about some of people's frustrations with the product and how it might actually not necessarily be too found. I think there's a lot of positive with this product that's kind of veiled in a little bit of anger. So not your usual react to anger video from me. So if you really like videos like this, then you gotta leave a like down below. But if this video doesn't get the views it needs, then I know y'all just want me to scream at the moon all the time. So let's hop right into it with the website on Mystery Boosters 2. This website is going to be linked down below, by the way. But yeah, Mystery Boosters 2, maximize the mystery. Every draft is different. Like Chaos Reign bring a unique twist to every game with a mix of cards that makes every draft different. In this world of surprises, you never know what you could open. Now, we have more cards that are available here, but we already see some cards like the Mox Poison, so it's a playtest card. We see the Lucan Dragon, which is kind of the old, kind of alternate, frame style. Then you have Oracle of the Alpha, which is an arena exclusive card coming to paper. And we have Wasteland and White Border and Nexus of Fate. So I should move my camera here. Nexus of Fate with its first non-foil printing. So let's hop into all of this a little bit here and kind of go through the screen. So first of all, Oracle of the Alpha, this was kind of the big contentious one. So this, for all of you paper players and MTGO players, is an arena exclusive card, specifically because it has digital only mechanics. Blue and 2 for a 2/3 flying. When Oracle of the Alpha enters the battlefield, conjure the Power 9 into your library, then shuffle when Oracle of the Alpha attacks Scry 1. So what conjuring means is it doesn't create a token. So no, we're not going to get token copies of the Power 9. We're not going to get Mox in power in token form. We're not going to get not Brainstorm. What am I saying? We're not going to get like Time Walk and everything. We're not going to get Ancestral in token copies. Conjure in digital only formats physically puts copies of cards. I said physically is loose, but puts copies of cards into your deck of what it is conjuring. So you take the Power 9, you take 9 cards, you put it into your deck, you add it in there. And Oracle of the Alpha is, people talked about this in paper, where maybe you flicker it over and over again and fill your opponent's deck up and just really ruin the consistency. Because I'll tell you what, a bunch of Moxen don't really matter if that's all you're top decking, right? If your deck isn't built around it, Mox don't really do anything. The Mox are really powerful as kind of like one-ups throughout to just hyper out your cards in like Vintage, but when it comes to something like this, it's going to be interesting. This is obviously going to be printed in such a way where it is a kind of unset. It's not legal in any constructed format, but because now we have a physical printing of this, then we have the inclination that people might be trying to kind of rule zero this into your Commander game. So get ready for something like that. That is a conversation that you may have in the near future. And I think for the sake of rule zeroing something in, I think I'm pretty open to it. I'm pretty okay with it. Maybe just as a one-of game, I'm okay with it not being legal anywhere as an unset card. It's kind of funny that this is what they're printing into these sets. But the next up is Mox Poison. And I bring this up specifically because it is a playtest card, not for constructed play, not legal in any way, shape, or form. And what's great about this is I think this is a really cool design. Like, you add 1 mana of any color, you get 2 poison counters. Now, this is obviously like busted in half. This shouldn't be a real card at all. 1 mana of any color for 0, 2 poison counters doesn't mean anything. But could this open up the design space? Is this them exploring a future design opportunity where maybe we get shock lands that don't shock, but they're like poison lands? So when, the land enters the battlefield, they're 2 times maybe like Watery Grave. It's called like Poisony Grave. And it's an island swamp that you can tutor up, but when it enters the battlefield, you have to get like 4 poison counters or 5 poison counters. And every time you tap, you get like 1 poison counter or like 2. And so it limits the amount of times that you can use it, right? Like really balance it in some way. I don't know. It's probably still not that balanced. It's probably still hella unbalanced. I don't know if making infect better is really the way we want to balance things. But Mox Poison still relatively interesting. And then finally, I want to bring up Nexus of Fate, because Nexus has yet to have a non-foil printing. This was a big controversy happening a couple of years ago, because this is a really well-played card back then, at least. As a mill player, I'm not a fan of this card. This was definitely a frustrating card. This was a card that got around Ashiok Dream Render's exile effect. Different times, but Nexus of Fate, because of its high playability, was very frustrating for a lot of folks, because the foiling process in Magic right now, as many of you know, it's not that great. Over long times, if you have, I believe it's a high amount of humidity, the foils actually curl. And so we get situations like this where your foils become Pringles. That is the big joke now. And I think situations like this can now be avoided if we, give non-foil printings of things, because yeah, blinging out your deck is important, but if the foil and alt art or special edition printings of these cards are going to essentially be tournament unplayable, because this would require like a humidor, and like you'd have to put your cards in like a humidor and like some type of box, and then you would have to like triple sleeve it to even flatten it. You have to hold it flat into a box. Like in my mill deck, I have a ton of foils, and those have actually been flattened out over time by being like double sleeved and packed into like a boulder. So like a 70 plus or whatever boulder, packed into there, double sleeved everything. It's fine. It's like flattened out over time. So the foils have not curled and they always stay in that box. But this is a unique scenario where something like this is actually good for Nexus of Fate players to make sure they're not getting quote unquote DQ'd. So that's really important for that. So there's a lot of positives coming out. There's potentially some design explorations, some really interesting Rule Zero situations, and then again, some non-foil printings for foil cards. So that's always nice to see. But really, being a con experience, a system like this or a product like this is only available at cons, but you do get Festival in a Box. So for specifically Las Vegas 2024, this Festival in a Box is your first opportunity to get your hands on Mystery Box 2 Display Box. Inside, you'll find 24 packs of cards, up to nearly 200 set symbols, future sight frames, first white border cards released in boosters for 19 years, and more, 3 collector boosters, a secret lair drop, and a promo card. So you get a lot of value out of this, but value is kind of relative, because this is probably going to be a pretty expensive Festival in a Box. This is going to be your only way to get mystery boxes outside of cons. And I think that's generally okay. I think I'll say this before I go further into the video, because this is an elevated experience. They are not putting net new cards into these. I will say where this kind of crosses the line is maybe, the whole non-foil printing of certain cards, but of course those are going to enter the market and then be available for purchase, albeit at a premium. But it's not like Nexus of Fate is taking over the whole game of Magic. There are other decks that you can play. You can maybe talk to a judge of like, hey, I have one of Nexus of Fate. What do I do about the curling situation with this? And so you kind of work through that situation with them. So I think in a lot of ways this is okay. This is for those folks that are able to go out to cons and kind of experience that and get an enhancement out of it. And I think it's completely okay if you're not able to go to a con. I think the whole concept of FOMO really ruins a lot of people's experiences and gets really down into their heads about how I'm not able to experience this one thing. I hate this. Like, just because I can't experience it, other people shouldn't be able to experience it. I need to be able to, everything for everybody. No, there are certain things that should be for some folks. Not everything is for everybody. We shouldn't be handing out participation rewards for everybody, but okay. Tolarian Community College talking about here, kind of tweeting Gavin Verrey, is there's going to be a retail version. Gavin then kind of swiftly says right afterwards that for Mystery Boosters 2, it's meant to be a special experience for players at conventions, and these will be at cons of all types, Magic Cons and more. Specifically, we know that, Magic Con Las Vegas, it's going to be there, especially down here with Amara kind of tweeting that out. Long-term, like Mystery Boosters 1, there'll be lots of it. As an extension of the con experience, there'll be also a Festival in a Box available online. And so kind of confirming what I was just talking about here. And again, I think this is okay because it's meant to be an enhancement of your festival experience, kind of just a further reward and incentive to be a part of these conventions. And I think that's perfectly fine. They're essentially printing alt arts, right? They're printing skins of the cards that you're able to play. You're still able to access the primary printings of them. You're still able to, relatively speaking, based on the card, of course, prices are going to vary. You're still able to access the cards that you want to play with. I find myself studying. I'm going to try and slow down my speak a little bit here. But Pleasant Kenobi then tweets out in response to that I hope y'all consider, especially considering a lack of conventions outside of North America, make it a timed exclusive, sure, but retail mystery boosters was such a good move. Fingers crossed. So Gavin Verhey then says, rollout and distribution of products is not my role or decision, as you know. But I certainly am going to pass the loud sentiment I'm hearing along to people that manage that stuff. Really appreciate the feedback. And so I think a thing like this, I think a move like this in general, like if they were able to rule this out to LGSs and have the broader audience be a part of this, I'm not opposed to that. If there was a line to do that, I'm all for it. But, you know, just kind of opposing the fact that it's just not available at all, like I'm fine with, again, because these are skins. This is an exclusive experience. This is something that if you go to a MagicCon, you do. I'm completely fine, right? Like not everyone needs a modern 5K available to them or a legacy 10K available to them right down the street. There is a certain amount of traveling. LGSs can only be available at certain distances. You know, not everyone is going to be able to play Magic at their fingertips. There are online ways to play it. There are other more casual ways to play it, such as Commander. You don't need to be a part of everything that you want to, right? Like, this is a luxury hobby at the end of the day, right? There's a lot of things that I can't afford in this game, even as a content creator. You got to pick and choose your battles. This is perfectly fine because, again, this is an elevated experience. This is not a pre-release, a pre-release of like Duskmorn, where folks are getting copies of their card like months in advance or anything like that. This is an exclusive con experience. And I think this is where sort of Tasty Toes talks about, you know, a set with mechanically unique cards that are only available if you buy entire boxes, fly out to conventions is not it. See, this is a little disingenuous, and you know what? I fall prey to this sometimes too in my videos. There's some details that I do miss out. Most of the time, I'm not trying to not include them on purpose. Maybe it's just a lack of research on my part. But I think calling this a fear of missing out is a little disingenuous because mechanically unique cards is true with an asterisk because what they're referring to is specifically the playtest cards. So those cards aren't really available in they're not constructed legal. So you're not able to play them in your commander decks. You're not going to be able to play them in your constructed decks. So why would this be an appeal to the average Magic player? Even as a Commander player, like a lot of Commander players aren't going to be open to a system like this where these cards aren't being able to be played in their decks. So how is this a fear of missing out other than people just being irresponsible, right? Not being able to control their own impulses. And that's like a whole separate discussion about like whether or not Magic the Gathering is gambling and the kind of fear tactics and kind of FOMO marketing that Wizards is on. That's a whole other discussion. I think specifically with Mr. Boosters, that's not true. But I did want to bring up the MTG stocks for this, specifically because there is something to be said about the price of these cards because they are very valuable. It's not just a limited experience where you draft and you move on. Cards here are actually pretty valuable. So if you talk about the regular Mystery Booster cards that are straight reprints, in the original Mystery Boosters, you had Mana Crypt, Rhystic Study, Teferi's Protection, Demonic Tutor, Lotus Petal, Coat of Arms, Dolmen's. I don't know what Dolmen's Gate is. What is this? Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures. What is? Commander players stop. Revel in Riches, sure. Commander players need to be stopped. But Mana Crypt, Rhystic Study, there's actually like really valuable cards in this, and that's going to be happening in this Mystery Booster product as well. There's going to be there already is on Twitter plenty of people seeing that there's alt art versions of things like Brainstorm in an alternate art frame from Time Shift, like the kind of mana cost on the side. And so that stuff is going to go for a premium, especially because of scarcity, because of playability, just being an exclusive. So cards like that are going to shoot up in price. And especially if you go to the next one, the playtest cards, even some of them like Plain Quake, for some reason, a card name like deals X damage to each creature without flying, like Plain Quake here with like no Planeswalker symbol. So Sliv Drazi Monstrosity, that was a hilarious one. I actually remember this one. So there's a couple of these that like are actually absolutely hilarious, just because I think like the commander playability, like a lot of people want to maybe rule zero some of these cards in because they do have close levels of playability to some of the other cards that they already are playing. Like they're not actually too far from being playable. They just have to kind of errata them in a certain way, maybe in a play group. So a lot of these cards, especially just in that convention on the spot, a lot of people, and again, especially with some of the cards that I'm seeing, are going to have that type of immediate value that people are going to want to trade for, that stores are going to want to purchase, that people are just going to want to purchase. So that is something that is worth mentioning. There is actually a value to a lot of the cards being pulled. And especially for the playtest cards, I'm pretty sure the mocks, that's going to be worth something. Like it's not going to be thousands, hundreds of dollars, but $20 $30 maybe, just because it's a Mox, you know, it's always something notable. It's a cool design. I definitely think the Mox Poison is something that's kind of, I feel like we're going to get something like that in the future. Let me know in the comment section down below if you feel like we're going to get some type of like poison mana type of design in the future. Obviously, it's going to take a while. Maybe it's out of like it's not going to be out of like a standard legal set. Maybe not, because we're not going to go back to Phyrexia or do anything with Phyrexia for a while, hopefully, because the story needs to move on at some point. But you know, it could be an option from there. So kind of going back to this, I think overall the mystery booster product is actually pretty good. I'm honestly really happy about it, from the perspective of it being a con exclusive, just kind of as an enhancement to those of you going to cons. I think the whole fear of missing out thing is a little overblown. Again, it's not necessarily mechanically unique cards, or if they are mechanically unique, like they're not constructed or kind of legal in any playable format, really, outside of just kind of rule zeroing it in. So I don't really buy that excuse. I think that's this is kind of fear mongering right here. And it might be a little hypocritical coming from me, but again, I do like to make positive videos, things that I am happy to see. I love experiences like this because it doesn't need to be for everyone. It's an exclusive. I'm okay with not experiencing it because I don't go to too many cons. I don't, not too many cons, I guess, like near me that I don't have to spend too much time and effort to go out to. So once there is one, I'll go. But again, I'm happy with this just being for the people that are able to go out and experience this. I'm going to be definitely glued to my screen on Twitter during MTG Las Vegas, not only for the crazy things that are going to happen there in terms of events, but also what people are pulling in their mystery boosters. That's going to be pretty exciting to see. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Let me know what you think about Mystery Boosters 2 in the comment section down below. Do you think it's okay that this is going to be a con exclusive? Do you think that this should be accessible to everybody? And you know, whether or not, let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my takes, as well as based on the cards that you've seen so far from the Mystery Booster, what card are you most excited for to get printed in the set?